Right?
It is 6 o'clock. Is the sheriff here? So you can hold it over. You ready, Ms. Rowland? You ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to the budget workshop for the year 2021 for Surrey County. And we do call this meeting to order at this time, this workshop to order at this time. And we're going to ask if staff, Ms. Rollins, would come and give us a overview of our budget as we can go into discussion at that time after she's given us a presentation. Ms. Rollins.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors, and to those who are assembled. At the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the county administrator, myself, did present a recommended budget in accordance to the applicable state code for the Board of Supervisors consideration. Ms. Swell and I did a presentation that basically went over the various drivers that were impacting the fiscal year 21-22 budget recommendation. At the conclusion of that presentation, it was recommended by the Board of Supervisors that we have a work session on today. Typically, I would have requested at that meeting for the proposed budget to be advertised, but we did not advertise the administrator's recommended budget on last Friday, so a workshop being requested by the Board of Supervisors has brought us to this meeting today, and I am looking forward to the continued dialogue by the Board of Supervisors as we continue to deliberate on the fiscal year 21-22 budget. If you would like me to go into further details regarding what some of those drivers are, Ms. Swindell would be more than happy to do that, but I would certainly take the direction from the board as to the how much information you want me to go over tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins, and I want to thank you from the board for not so much taking directives, but working with us in putting off the proposed budget, the advertisement of the proposed budget. We appreciate you cooperating with us in that manner. And since then, things have come to light, and we are full supporting of you presenting that for advertisement at this time. Fellow board members, we know that this is a very trying time for us as board members of the county, and we all have a desire to do what is best for the county. And we have been given a proposed tax increase for the county and some information as far as the proposal for the budget on the whole. And so at this time, I wanted us to come together, and we did it in consensus to come together to have this workshop to entertain any questions that we may have on this proposed budget. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor to any board members for any questions that you may have of staff, our county administrator, in regards to the proposed budget as we strive to continue to move the county forward. Board members. I know everybody don't want to speak at one time in the workshop, and it's a different setting. So I'm going to give way to our senior member who served the county for the most years, Ms. Little, if she have any questions or concerns in reference to the budget to be discussed. Ms. Little.
Mr. Chair and fellow board members.
Mike.
I don't have any heartaches over the budget, and I know that we're at a spot where it appears that our funds are not there to fund all that we may need to fund, or perhaps all the requests that we have maybe received. And Ms. Melissa could share with me if she could go over what we are planning to do with the 5%. I want to know if the 5 cents that we're looking at is any of that to replenish our contingency fund, or the fund that we have taken funds out of to complete some of our projects, rather than to work on some needs that are, I would think, maybe a priority over putting that money back into that fund. It
Oh.
is, did you understand?
Okay, Mrs. Little, I'm gonna try to break that up into what I heard, and I'm gonna ask for Ms. Wendell to assist me. So I think your first question was, what is the anticipated 5 cents is for the increase in the proposed increase in the tax rate?
Yes.
Okay, can we refer to the budget drivers, Ms. Wendell, on answering that question?
Good evening. So the reason that we're at a point where a 5-cent tax rate increase is needed is twofold. One, revenue is essentially flat, and the county's largest single tax source is Public Service Corporation tax revenue, which accounts for 59% of the total local tax revenue for the general fund. And our sales assessment ratio, which drives the amount of revenue that we get from the Public Service Corporation, has declined to 95.1%. And as a result, we'll be receiving $710,000 less in Public Service Corporation tax revenue than what we would have received if our assessment ratio were 100%. And that equates to 2.5 cents on the tax rate. So 2.5 cents of it really relates to that loss of revenue, and then other sources of revenue that are essentially flat or growing very smallly, if that's a word. And one of our other significant sources of revenue that has declined is our investment income, which is declining by $105,000 for next year due to interest rates that are driven to record lows because of the pandemic. Eventually, interest income, we hope, will come back up, but it's also a function of cash balances. And over the past several years, the county has used fund balance to pay for capital project costs, and so that's also reduced our cash balances as well. So that's the revenue side. And then on the expenditure side, there are a number of drivers that are included in the budget. There are several new positions, and as well as positions that were defunded or unfunded last year that are included, and those are $581,000. We're recommending a 5% salary increase for county staff, and that's consistent with the salary increase that is being called for state employees as well as for the schools. The schools funding is the 5% salary increase is $307,000. The schools funding increase is $294,000, and every 1% of their salary increase is $110,000. So the schools took action in their budget to make other reductions to try to offset that cost. As you may recall, the county issued debt in 2020 to pay primarily for the new public safety radio system, and we're going to see our principal and interest requirements go up as a result of that. That's $182,000. We have mandated costs for the Children's Services Act that also, by the way, impacts the school's costs as well, and those costs are estimated to go up by $94,000. Corrections and detention costs for inmates and juvenile detention is $61,000. And we were able to make some reductions in our workers' comp claims by $27,000 and other reductions of $28,000 net. But to answer Mrs. Little's question about restoring the contingency, for a number of years the Board of Supervisors has had a contingency line in the budget that's $100,000. And that money has been there to cover the inevitable unanticipated issue that comes up throughout the year. And as budgets have gotten increasingly cut over the past couple of years, that contingency line becomes increasingly important. And for a budget of the size of Surrey's, $100,000 really is not very much as a percent of the budget. But the contingency line was cut last year in order to balance the budget without a tax rate increase. And so staff has proposed $41,000 to restore that contingency to its historical level of $100,000. The board could, of course, decide they want to, apply that money somewhere else in the budget if you desire. And finally, one of the recommendations that our financial advisor made to the board when they gave a presentation to you in early February was that the county begin funding a revenue stabilization fund so that we have resources to deal with fluctuations in the Public Service Corporation tax, because it is so significant a part of our budget. And over time, that revenue source has fluctuated, quite a bit, and we don't have control over it. It's driven by whatever activity is occurring at Dominion. So, our recommendation is that we would put $119,000 in to begin funding that. And there's nothing magical about that number. It's just what was the actual tax rate increase that was needed was like 4.6 cents, but we only do tax rate adjustments in even cents. So that was the residual amount that we're recommending be used as seed money for that fund. So unless you have any questions, those are the major drivers of how we got to a 5-cent proposed increase in the tax rate.
Thank you. Do I get another question?
Sure. Sure.
Some other things have come to light and that I feel like or could be very detrimental to the county, and that's the Sheriff's Department's vehicles, and also I understand that maybe perhaps that we need another vehicle for rescue. So I did have that little discussion, but I would like to see us include those two projects. Now, I know the rescue squad, I talked to Ms. Rollins, and she said that one was coming, so at least that saves us, maybe they can get by this year to the next fiscal year with the new one. But the Sheriff's Department is at a critical, based on what the sheriff tells me, they're at a very critical point with their vehicles, where that most of them, and I apologize because I actually thought that the Sheriff's Department vehicles were being kept up yearly, but I'm learning that that's not true, and I don't know if he could, board members, could we entertain the sheriff to share with us his dilemma that he finds himself in his department in at this time? He is with us. He can certainly describe it better than I can.
I have no objections to the sheriff, but I do know that these things are falling within lines of our CIP, and what we're going to have to do, and I'm sure that the staff is going to do, is to prioritize these things. But we have a lot on our plate to discuss and look at as preparing this budget. And just talking with fellow board members, we're looking at a situation where we are really behind the 8 ball because taxes have not been raised in the county in the past 11 years. So we're playing catch up, and any type of tax increase is not going to be favorable. But once the public realize the position that we are in, then I think they will be in tune and in step with us as we do make this increase to the tax rate in the county. We do know that there are several needs within the county, and we have gone to, instead of raising the taxes in the past, the fund balance have been used and put us in a position that we really don't want to be in at this time. So if I'm correct, I would ask Miss Rollins or Miss Swindell, as far as the the vehicles are concerned, we are looking at that as far as prioritizing those within our CIP and what we can do, because we have, a number of projects that we have to look at, but certainly we do not want to overlook the sheriff and the vehicles, because we want them to be able to provide the services with the best equipment that we can possibly afford them. So if the board would like for the sheriff to speak on it, I have no problem with that. But I do know that that's where it's going to fall within the CIP.
I'm fine with that. I have no problem with it.
Sheriff?
Chairman Elliott, as the sheriff prepares to come, may I just provide a general overview of what the CIP looks like so that
Yes.
the board and others can have a better understanding of what's included in the fiscal year 21-22 CIP?
I think that'd be very helpful, so we'll know where we are and decisions that will be made. I think that'd be very helpful, yes.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to identify that the first year in the CIP, fiscal year 21-22, we're looking at in terms of what the actual local dollar commitment would be for the Board of Supervisors based on the recommended budget. The projects that are included in the CIP for fiscal year 21-22 total $568,853. The projects are as follows. And these are the projects that are going to be funded with those local dollars. Recording software, which is the county goal of public safety, $50,000. The physical security upgrade, public safety to the government center, an estimated cost of $53,500. Public safety, vehicle replacement, county goal again, public safety, $104,877. And that is to provide 2 vehicles for the sheriff's department and 1 vehicle for general government. Community and economic development, county goal, quality of life, $75,000. And that is to provide money for a community, recreational, tourism, or economic development related project that is deemed priority. The next item is facility maintenance, $160,476. If you all recall, in last year's budget, we made a change whereby the operating costs for facility maintenance was actually included in the operating budget to better be able to prioritize exactly which facility maintenance projects rose above the others in terms of priority. We moved those fundings to the CIP. So in terms of what we have in our budget to take care of all the facility needs for the dozens of buildings that I have advised you that the county does have to maintain, including the grounds, we only have $160,476. And then there's a small amount of $25,000 to take care of technology improvements, and that county goal is financial stability. The only other item that is identified for some county resources is the development of the Grayland property site, and that amount is, Ms. Wendell, local dollars? $100,000 for that. In terms of being able to capitalize on additional funding from the state to be able to, again, pay for, have some grant fundings to pay for additional developments on that property. So that identifies the projects that we have deemed to be priority in the CIP, and it obviously does not include everything, board members. If you had time to peruse the CIP document on page number, about the 4th page of the document, it identifies about 44 different projects that have been thought about by county staff, have been not necessarily put into the priority order. And I want to also add that it does not include any CIP for the schools at this point. So very limited dollars that we're identifying in this budget for CIP. And as you can see, a number of those does take care of some of our public safety issues. So I understand the dilemma in terms of having the needs, and I certainly understand that the sheriff need vehicles. We have taken some time to actually go inside and witness those myself, and I see that they do have high mileage. And also, we have that same problem on the number of county vehicles. And as I explained to the board members in some previous conversations, we do have county vehicles as well that have excess of 200,000 miles on them. So we're still trying to balance all these priorities with limited amount of resources. And it's not an easy task, but I just wanted to share, again, what was included in the next year's CIP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins. It is, have we had any information on the American Relief Fund yet, what we can use any of those funds for? Have we got any information on that yet?
In terms of information, we still have not received the official guidance from the treasurer as to some of the uses of their funds. There is information out there in generalities about what some of it could use for, but we are very erring on the side of caution to really understand exactly the uses of those funds. Until we can get that guidance, we're not really identifying any specific projects at this time.
Okay. Board members, do you have any input on the CIP that she's given us? Okay. Sheriff, I know you're disappointed at what's there, so you can come and make your case.
Yes, I preface my presentation on, I understand the budget. Ms. Rollins, about the budget and prices and this sort of thing like that. And I understand also what she's saying in regards to other county vehicles having high mileage. And there's not only the high mileage, but it's also the maintenance and the condition of the vehicle mechanically.
Yeah.
And also, those kind of vehicles are not responding to your house when your house is being broken into, or when somebody's being shot, or when incidents and things like that was taking place in the county. These are emergency police operated vehicles. That the deputy's got to have sound to be able to respond to a crisis or emergency what's taking place in the county. And if we can't get there, who's gonna get there? I just got off the phone, was talking to the first sergeant of the state police, said he wanted to meet because we don't have troopers. They down with troopers, so they don't have the troopers to help support us. And here in Sussex, here in Surrey and Sussex. So the captain want to come down and meet with myself and Sheriff Giles because like they're short. And so, you're given all these dynamics with situations like that. And like I said, we got deputies out here with driving with subpar cars. It's just really unacceptable. And like I spoke to some of you in regards to not only that, it's just lessons of morale when you got deputies out here riding around with vehicles that are kicking and the motors got ready to blow. All these other issues that are going on with vehicles that you can see that are some 6 and 7 years old that are very, very, very old vehicles. So, it's not to say that, that I'm trying to throw shade on other county vehicles, but like I said, these are vehicles that are out here to save people's lives. Deputies out here driving and sometimes at a highway speed to get to a situation to do it. And we don't want them going down the road and the front end go out on the vehicle and cause a situation for themselves or somebody else get hurt in that situation. So it's not something that's coming in because we want these vehicles. This is something we come because we need these issues. And as you can see the presentation that I've given you, it was kind of set before I took office. It seemed that, the sheriff's office was getting somewhat like 2 vehicles per year prior to that. And as you can see, it was a couple years that kind of skipped. And then it was a year or so in there we was able to use some funds that was left over in the budget to kind of help offset some of that. But when you start skipping those years, it kind of just makes things go that much worse when it comes to vehicles. And as you can see, the vehicles, the miles, you can see the dated, how old some of these vehicles are in years. It's really, it's not just, like I said, mileage. It's a combination of everything. And like I said, we are just positioned that, we may not have the money to fund it, but we got to do something because this is a public safety emergency. It's just not a warrant. We come here crying and saying, we want vehicles. This is a need that we need to make sure the county stays safe. And we have one of the safest counties, but the thing about it, we can't stay safe if we don't have the deputies out here patrolling. We have incidents where churches, things get stolen from our churches and stuff like that. So we got our deputies out here at night putting 200 and 300 miles because they're patrolling this county, which is 279 square miles at night, going by the churches, going by all the them be comfortable in what they're out here doing, because as you can see in their presentation, this is their office. This is what they are in, mainly 12 hours a shift, 12 hours a day, their patrol shift, and if they're in a car that is subpar, that just messes with the morale and a little bit of everything else. And like I said, as we see the national climate, how hard it is for places to get good quality applicants, you most definitely want to keep the ones you have when you do have them. And like I said, you can't keep them if you are have subpar equipment and vehicles for them to operate.
Sheriff, I appreciate your presentation, and I can empathize with what you're saying. Being in law enforcement, you have to have adequate equipment. You can't have anybody in a high-speed chase when you may have some mechanical failure that will put the deputies in harm's way. So I do understand your request. I do understand, and I would ask that, and I believe that they will, that our staff will do everything that we can to accommodate as much as we can, because this, again, like you said, and I do totally agree, that this is a need. It's not so much of a want. If we're going to have an effective department, and one of the things I want to share with the other board members, we are getting all of this expensive radio equipment that we're going to be putting into vehicles, and it doesn't make sense to put it in a vehicle that we know we're going to turn around and have to take it out the next year. That's another expense. So I appreciate your presentation, and I know staff is going to look into it and do all we can. Just me personally, I know that because of the danger of the job of being a police officer, I would prefer to see the county, and this is a workshop, so this is what we're here to talk about. I would prefer to see the county do 3 sheriff's cars and don't do a county car, because it's the need there. You're talking about somebody's life in a high-speed chase, and I've been there. You want the best vehicle that you want, the best handling vehicle. You don't want one of your sheriff deputies to be wrapped around a tree because they had a failure on a vehicle. So I appreciate the presentation that you're making, and for the board, I do empathize with what he's saying, and I'm just asking staff to do all they can to accommodate the needs of the sheriff's department the best that we can, and fulfilling the rest of the needs of the budget.
Chairman Elliott?
Yes.
And the sheriff did remind me of one thing, and he's right in terms of last year, if you remember when we made the initial budget presentation, that we had included, I believe, 2 vehicles in the proposed budget recommendation on last year. But due to the fact that we needed to hold the tax rate the same, we were not able to accommodate any vehicles in last year's budget. So this is just a testament of the pent-up demand that we have on capital needs in the county. One of the things I also want to mention, and Ms. Little shed light on a little bit, in terms of just the other public safety requests that we have. And absolutely, I certainly do agree, we need those police vehicles. And I just want to share with the board that we have gotten, even though we do have in our budget this year where we're purchasing 1 ambulance, we have already received a request that the 2nd ambulance is needed. And even though this is something that's definitely not going to be purchased with local dollars, we do have to entertain ongoing needs in terms of public safety as pertains to the fire truck apparatus that was included in the CIP for some ongoing years. So it's just always that challenge of just trying to balance, again, the limited dollars. It costs $287,000, roughly 1 cent on the tax rate to purchase 8 vehicles for the sheriff's department. So if that, just put that into context of what it would cost to get 8 vehicles, 1 cent on the tax rate.
Could being a workshop, this is what it's all about. Could we? I know the board have seen what it would look like for the average citizen with a 5-cent increase, and what you just said, what 1 cent would do. Is it any way we can get information? And I know you want to advertise and want you to do that. Is it any way we can see an effect, Mr. Jenkins, that 6 cents would do to the budget? And the reason why I'm saying that is because we are one of the lowest tax rates in the area. We have not raised taxes in 11 years. And matter of fact, and I know I'll be the bad guy, but I'm looking out for the safety of my officers and the needs of the county. We at one time lowered the taxes. So and we've been dealing with that for the last 11 years. So if the citizens know the need that we have here, this is not something where we're just trying to jack up somebody's taxes. This is to provide the need that we have in the county. What would a 6 cents look like as opposed to 5?
No, let's go back historically to what occurred. The tax rate was lowered, I believe, in 2016 after the last reassessment.
Yes.
So I believe we were at 73 cents, and it was lowered to 71 cents as a result of the reassessment. The board opted to lower the tax rate when assessment, when values rose. And we were able to maintain a 100% sales ratio in 16, 17, and 18. We were at 98.9 in 19, and we were at 99% in 20. So that's what effectively gets applied to our public service. So we were getting generating more money from public service in that regard in those years. Now we've dropped to 95.1% because the sales ratio has fallen.
Right.
For that reason. So that's why I believe as the county, y'all have looking at this from the perspective that you need to raise taxes to offset some of those losses. So it's really, I think, going to come down to what 1 cent generates for public service. And I believe that county finance
Right.
might have that information available to potentially help with that as well. Because with the fall in the ratio, we've got to look at it from a standpoint of 95.1% being applied to the public service value, which is close to where it was last year when we received our estimate. But we've got to look at it as receiving potentially less because we're applying 95% opposed to 99% to that. So the 1 cent on the rate, I'm not sure exactly what it equates out to based on the estimate. But each cent is providing you a certain amount of hundreds of thousands back to what you were losing from the ratio fall. That's what I can help with in this.
Do we have any projection on what the reassessment would do for us?
At this time, we don't know for sure, other than we're hoping that we will generate an increase out of it because of the falling in the market. But at the same time, I spoke with Don Thomas of Wingate this week, and he said we won't know for sure until we get into it because there are always cases where some things are up and some things are down. So he used the term equalization of value, but at the same time, he mentioned that we should see an increase in value by the way the market is trending.
Okay.
Chairman Elliott.
Yes.
So I too see the importance of having great vehicles out here to keep our county safe and keep our citizens protected. I do see here in the packet that was presented that in the past we've purchased vehicles, but I see there's some talk of some leasing options. Has the county explored such options to lease vehicles opposed to purchasing these vehicles so that I don't know what the numbers look like, but it would allow for us to keep our vehicles turning over at a rate that we would not we could avoid these probably high mileages and make sure that they're mechanically sound. I'm just asking, I don't know if that's a question for you or Ms. Rollins or whoever, but has any work or any numbers been put together to see what a leasing option would do for the county as opposed to purchasing? Like, just i.e. using this 104,000, how much will 104,000 allow us to do in a lease if we was to use that public safety money that's in the CIP this year for leasing of vehicles?
That's thank you, Mr. Howell. And the leasing option is kind of new to us. We just gotten it, and I know Ms. Swindell is talking to our financial advisors to get some input on this. And I want us to again, we're here for the budget workshop to look at the best options from the standpoint of the budget when we get the final budget to do all that we can to accommodate the needs of the sheriff's department. It's going to be hard for us to say one thing tonight, that this is what we're going to do, but we can definitely say that we want to support the sheriff's department, and we want staff to look at all the options to give them what they need. We
Understood.
can agree on that?
We can.
Yes, we
and
can.
If I may add, we haven't had an increase in our M&T taxes in quite a
That's still $1.
while. Now, that's machinery and two.
Mm-hmm.
So there are probably citizens who would pay that are not paying real estate. So it's another avenue that we could use to increase in order to add to what we have from our other funds to fund those vehicles.
We talked about that last year, but we didn't increase it. We talked about it last year as a possibility. And we left everything as is because of COVID last year, but we did talk about possibly doing that this year. I do know that once the budget, the proposed budget is advertised, whatever rate it is, we cannot go up. We can come down, but we can't go up. I'm still, me personally, again, discussion from everybody, I'm still comfortable with the 5 cent at this time. And if we need, because we have our reassessment coming, and we have some information on the American Relief Fund that we need some information on, and if we can find any way to squeeze even more out for the sheriff's department, I'm sure we would do so. That's just me personally speaking, but that's why I asked about the 1 cent. Would it make a difference in making up the difference in the sheriff's?
You're talking an additional cent on, so that way you would.
Instead of 5 cent, 6 cent.
And that's what I said, do we know what 1 cent is?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that question. So if the tax rate were increased by 6 cents instead of 5 cents, we'll just pick a middle of the road, home assessed value of $150,000, that would equate to $7.50 a month, as opposed to $6.25 a month at the 5 cent level. So that would be an increase of $1.25. And at a $200,000 home value, the additional tax penny would equate to a difference of $1.67 a month.
So instead of $16, it'll be $17. And we could possibly be able to fund the need for our vehicles.
What would that equate to the overall increase?
Every penny on the tax rate is equivalent to about $287,000.
It's a lot to consider, board members.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms.
if
Lewis.
I may add, budgets go up and budgets come down.
Yes.
So we know that, we've done that, we've used that in order to meet the demands that are put on the county. And so this may be a year that we may need to go 6 cents, because we do have a demand. I don't think any citizen out here, if the sheriff's department goes out here in one of these vehicles and there's a horrible accident, and then it be said that, well, the board never did give them any new cars, or they don't have the correct vehicles. And the leasing, if we're gonna be putting equipment, we're buying equipment to put in the radios or something.
It covers in that program, the lease can cover all this stuff, and at the end of that lease, the county can buy those vehicles back for $1. So the vehicle, in terms of being with the county.
Well, I would recommend, I'm with you on the 6 cents, but I would recommend that we give finance an opportunity to look at it with our finance people and see what's gonna be the best option for us as a county. My main objective is to make sure, to try to get the sheriff's department what they need.
Yeah, mine
And
too.
if you're talking about another dollar per month,
Right.
I think any citizen will want, and here is the thing, board members, and I don't care what we do. Everybody's not gonna be pleased with it, but I think as board members, it is incumbent upon us to do what we know is best for the county. We're gonna get feedback from, if we increase the budget by 1 cent, we're gonna get feedback from it. But we know what's needed in the county, and the county has, we are in this predicament, and not saying anything disparaging against former boards, but we're in this situation because the county has been lean so long, and we have not increased the tax rate. And I wanna ask, with this caveat on possibly looking at 6 cents, do we have any information on, because we want to look out for our seniors as well. We do have the tax relief for our seniors, those 65 and older. And I don't know how many of our seniors that we have that's using this tax relief, but I know we talked in the prior meeting that we may look at increasing the income that a senior could have and still get the tax relief. And if we do that, I think that would kind of offset what we are talking about as far as another cent increase, if we look at the seniors.
I do need to chime in on that.
Yes.
Tax relief applications are due on May 3rd. So anytime that changes are typically made, we do it during the current year for the next year. I did talk today with the county about the option, if y'all wanted to look at this, that you might be able to change the amount of money that is the maximum deduction. We were at 500 a few years ago. We raised it to 750 last year. You could potentially go up to 1,000 if that is something that is permissible to be changed at this time. It would maybe offset the cost to those that are tax relief recipients. But so far as changing the general requirements, which right now are your total household income cannot exceed 35,000, and your total net assets cannot exceed 100,000.
Okay.
I don't know that that can be changed because we've been going from January 1st to May 1st without the due date. The due date being May 3rd this year because May 1st falls on a Saturday, and that's been advertised this whole time that way. So I don't know that anything can be done to change the threshold
Of
at this
income.
time, but you might be able to look at changing the amount of maximum deduction that could be given.
I think if, again, discussion, if we're going to entertain another cent, I think we need to look at that for our seniors to maximize the deduction that they could get.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, at the last board meeting, if you recall, I provided the board with some supplemental
You did, yes.
information. And in that information, it gave a 5-year history as to what the relief is for our elderly and disabled, including disabled veterans. And I can just highlight that information just for discussion purposes as you contemplate on whether or not the board desires to do something differently. As Mr. Jenkins alluded to, $750 for qualifying persons. It was changed to that amount in 2019. Right now, we have about 80 individuals, Mr. Jenkins, who are taking advantage of the tax relief for the elderly. In 2020, that tax relief amount for elderly and disabled, about $38,500. 2019, about $25,700. 2018, it was around $27,000. 2017, $35,000. And 2016, it was $37,000. So just wanted to provide that historical information. This is just for the real estate elderly and disabled. That does not include the disabled veteran exemption, which we do receive quite a bit more. One of the things, if I may share, Mr. Jenkins, that we also talked about this morning is if the board desires to do something differently with that, one of the things in terms of making a change in the tax rate, how would that impact or whether or not it would offset the amount that would avoid a tax rate, a tax rate impact for the elderly. So if you did decide, for an example, to increase it by 5 cents and increasing that to 1,000 instead of 750, just the general estimates would mean that we would pretty much offset most of that cost.
Right,
Correct.
That
Okay.
should assist in regarding that.
Gotcha.
Okay, got you. Well, I do know, board members, that whatever we advertise, we can't go up. Bottom line. So if we were to advertise 6 cents and then we find out that we can do everything we need at 5 cents, we can bring it down. But we can't advertise 5 cents and then say we should have did 6. So, you know, that's what's before us now. And I think, again, I'm speaking in this vein because I do applaud Ms. Rollins for waiting to get some consensus from the board on this, because that shows a sign of us working together. So I know she's going to take the direction that we give her now. So I don't know the pleasure of the board. How do you feel about it? Ms. Little has said how she felt about it. I don't know if any other board members.
Chairman Elliott, I would support the advertisement of a 6 cent, just so that we can make sure that we could have the needed funds to fund things. If we see that we can do it with 5, then we do. But I do see the seriousness in making sure that once we advertise, we know that we have we know that we have it covered on the front side, and being back in this predicament 6 months down the road because we didn't get enough revenue generated from the increase.
And the 6 cents, and I think we need to look at it from this standpoint as well. I think when we had the presentation last week, what is needed to totally fund all the needs of the county is around 11 cents. So, you know, if we do 5 cents now, we're going to turn around next year and we're going to be looking for 5 more cents. So I think we need to do all we can right now to keep some type of balance. That's just me personally. That's my feeling on Ms. Calhoun.
I want to bring up an issue that I'm not sure we resolved or finished discussion on at last meeting, was the collection of the taxes biannually, June and December. I still feel very strongly against that. I know that it would give us a one lump sum in June of next year to help us, but it's just a one-shot deal, one-shot Judy, so to speak, and it's not. I don't think it would be beneficial, and I know that a lot of the farmers that are in my district has definitely shown opposition to the biannual, to the biannual tax payment. So I would like for the board to, present their thoughts on that, or, come to, give it some thought, and before we even think about implementing that.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing it up. I think if we going to, I know 5 cents was like at the minimum that we were looking at doing. I think if we are going to consider doing a 6 cent increase, and we know we have something to offset the seniors, I don't see it being an issue for the board to still have the 1-year collection, because that would give some type of relief to the farmers as well. And I don't know if it would even be feasible at this short period of time. Mr. Chucky can tell us that, to even try to implement 2 separate times at this juncture, trying to get the budget together.
Just from my office's standpoint, my limited deputies and all, for 21, it's out of the question because it already had to be done at this point.
Right.
But going forward, it could create more, it would create more of a burden to our office with our office size and staff, deputies and all, in order to get it
I believe that a lot of things are going to be left for open discussion in the future, because I do know that there have been some issues with Mr. Drury, our absent member tonight, as far as land use, but that's again a situation where it would be burdensome to even try to implement that this year, but I know that this is something that we can discuss for future years, tax years. At this particular juncture, at this late stage in the game, I feel that we, and again, this is for discussion workshop, I feel that we need to establish a tax rate and give the relief that we're talking about for the seniors and the annual payment to the farmers, so that's kind of balancing it off for everybody. And let's try to move the county forward in that vein. I mean, that's my position on it now. I do know that there are some other issues that we want to discuss as far as what the budget is going to look like. But as far as the overall rate and what we're going to do, I think that's where we need to kind of hone in right now.
Another, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Another issue I would like to bring up, and and that's with the school board budget, Mr. Elliott and board members.
Don't want to cut you off. I'm with you. I want you to have that. I want to have that discussion because I know that's on your table. But are we coming to some type of consensus? Because Ms. Rollins needs guidance on the advertisement, because we can always advertise 6 and still do a 5-cent budget, but we can't advertise a 5-cent budget and go up to 6 cents. We found out that we need it. I've heard from Mr. Howell, Ms. Little, I think she's in favor, Mr. Howell's in favor, Mr. Calhoun.
At this point in time, until, I want to bring up this
You wanna bring up that
discussion
issue?
about the school board.
Go right ahead, sir.
Because I feel, with the presentation just the other night from Dr. Sims, their budget for students is now at 616. That's approximately 100 students from this current school year. Their budget has increased.
Say that one more time. I want to hear you.
Their population in this school year is over 700, and according to her handout or her presentation, their budget is now for a population of 616 students.
For next year.
Yes. Yes. Still at the same number of staff, and their budget is increasing. If we're losing 15% of students in just 1 year, and that has been a decline for a number of years. The number of years, I don't know, I didn't have a chance to look at it, but from my wife being a school teacher and other folks that I've talked with, it has been declining just as the population in Surrey County has been declining. I personally think that maybe we should come up with a 2-member folks from the board to meet with the school board and discuss this issue. It's just, to me, it's astronomical that we pay so much money to the school systems and we have a declining number of students. I mean, 15% of students lost for next year. They're anticipating that. I would have expected some type of cuts somewhere. Maybe get back with them and have them repencil some numbers. Let them decide where they can make their cuts. I'm not the one who to tell them what to do. I think honestly that before we publicize maybe the rate in the paper, get with them and let them try to figure something out, because that will hopefully reduce the amount that we're asking for a tax increase.
Mrs. Rollins, would you like to speak to that? I do know, and I do appreciate what you're saying, and it may be difficult to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it may be difficult to try to decrease what they're asking for this year. I do remember Dr. Sims saying about we're coming to the time where we're going to have the hard decision of maybe even closing one of the schools down, and just had the two schools. You would have a whole lot of savings if that was to happen. I know that's not going to happen this year, and I do agree with you and the committee to meet with the school board, but I don't know if, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if anything can be done right now.
I don't understand that because their budget doesn't have to be approved until.
So that's why I asked them to give me
Right,
some clarity
okay,
on it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Calhoun, and board members, Dr. Sims had planned on being on the call tonight to be able to answer any questions that may have come up, and we have her on the line if you want to have her entertain those comments.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, that's fine.
Dr. Sims is on the call. Dr. Sims, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, how are you?
Okay, we have,
I will attempt to address the questions via my computer as opposed to my phone.
okay.
But if I'm cut off on the computer or you cannot hear me, I'll go back to the telephone if that's okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes, Dr. Sims.
Okay, so just to address some of the questions or concerns regarding Surrey County's public schools and the budget that we proposed, the first area of concern is the number of 616 students. That number of 616 students is not the actual number of students that we are serving in Surrey County Public Schools, but it is basically the worst case scenario that the state gave us. Therefore, we used it to build our budget, and we used it to be as conservative as we possibly could when developing our budget. And I'd like to bring to everyone's attention that last year, or prior to COVID-19, we were serving about 740 students in Surrey County. COVID-19 did cause quite a few of our students to go into the homeschool roles, and that's a choice that families made for their own personal safety. I am expecting that once we get through this pandemic, that those students will return to us. I have no reason to believe that, other than the fact that it's COVID-19, that they are not currently in our schools and not currently being served by the school division. So we're looking forward to welcoming those students back. In addition to that, some other concerns, even though our student population has been dropping for many years, we are still required by the state to offer certain programs. And it doesn't matter if we have 50 students in the program or if we're only serving 10. We are mandated to offer those programs. And when those programs are mandated to be offered, we as the school division must ensure that we have highly qualified staff members to serve those students in those programs. This is not just an issue for Surrey County, it's an issue for quite a few small and rural school divisions. So I don't want you to think that it's unique to us. However, I do feel that collaboratively, and by collaboratively, the school division and the county can work together to bridge the necessary gaps that are here. As we're talking about bridging gaps, when we look at the budget that was proposed on April 1st by the school division, you'll see that the budget, in essence, the major impact was actually that 5% raise. And that 5% raise is yet another mandate that has come down to us with that 5% raise. A 5% raise for Surrey County Public Schools is approximately $550,000 total. That $550,000 is what we worked through to make sure that we were not trying to, or at least not passing that full $550,000 on to the county. So we have done some things at the school division to offset that $550,000. And that $550,000, we have eliminated positions within the school division, and we have been eliminating positions for many years now just to try and offset that declining student population. But I still say, I want you to keep in the back of your mind, even though the population is declining, the school division, just as other school divisions around the state, are still required to provide programs and services. And that's where a big bulk of our increase is coming from. But to offset, we have eliminated some positions. We have offset also with savings that have come through our health insurance, so that we're not coming to you requesting the full $550,000. So with that being said, are there any additional questions for me? I am on the line, but also the Director of Finance, Melissa Harvey, is here as well. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I'm thinking of my questions, please, I'm sorry. Dr. Sims, I just have a couple other questions. On the Facebook page of Surrey County, there was a document out there where you all are posting for positions now. Math teacher, I believe, is one of them, school bus drivers, custodial workers, and things like that. That could not been taken in consideration as a further decrease to help offset the increase?
Well, I would certainly like to address that, and I apologize. I can hear voices, but with the way the screen is set up, I don't know exactly who I'm speaking to.
Dr. Sim,
But,
this is Tim Calhoun.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Calhoun, Tim Calhoun.
Mr. Calhoun, the positions that are listed on the site are absolutely necessary for the school division. I'll say that they're necessary certainly now more so than ever because of COVID-19. With COVID-19, we are having to social distance our students on our buses as well as in the classrooms. So that entails needing more buses on the road. As a matter of fact, other superintendents are looking to increase the number of drivers. We are in Surrey County just looking to come to a basic level of where we were maybe 2 years ago with our drivers. Also with our custodian staff has dropped over the past 2 years, and we are trying to make sure that we can properly clean, sanitize our buildings and our schools for the safety of our students as well as the staff members who are in those buildings. So I would say the positions that are listed are only the necessary positions. There are some other positions that we have not filled, but in the full scheme of things, they are not absolutely necessary at this point in time.
Dr. Sims, Tim Calhoun again. In last year's presentation, you had an estimate of 88 school teachers, and you had the same amount for this year. Where's the decrease?
Are you saying 88 school teachers?
I believe that was what was in your documentation provided. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not certain from last year, but I'll go back to the statement regarding our programs. if you are actually in Surrey County Public Schools and you look at our secondary program, secondary in Surrey County are grades 5 through 12. If you look at our programs, you'll realize that we are running at the bare minimum. So for example, if you look at 5th grade, in 5th grade, I only have one 5th grade math teacher. I have one 6th grade math teacher, one 7th grade, one 8th grade math teacher. When you talk about eliminating a position, and let's say, for example, it's that 5th grade math teacher, I'm not just eliminating a position, I'm eliminating a program, and I'm eliminating a mandate that's required by the state. We must teach 5th grade math. We only have one 5th grade math teacher. And that's true for almost every one of our secondary courses in Surrey County.
Okay, can I change direction and ask another question, please? It was brought to my attention on my way in. I didn't have time to hear what my constituent wanted to express, but has the school board put out a questionnaire recently in regards to virtual teaching provided by the state?
Last night at 7 o'clock, I sent out an instant alert or a robocall to all the families in Surrey County. And that robocall was really just to get some feedback on where our families are for next year so that we can plan. Currently, we have about 60% of all students in Surrey County coming into school for in-person instruction. Next year, we are looking at opening our school buildings Monday through Friday so that students are coming for the entire week. I need to get an idea of just how many students are coming back into the school division next year so that we can plan. And in addition to that, if you go to the survey is on the school division's Facebook site as well. What I'm requesting as feedback is just an idea of families who might want to remain virtual. If families choose to remain virtual next year, the option for those families tentatively is a program called Virtual Virginia. And those Virtual Virginia will basically mirror what we are teaching in Surrey County. So did I answer that, or do you see the difference? It's in-person versus virtual. Right now, the teachers are balancing both of those responsibilities, but as more students come back into the buildings, that is almost an impossible task for our teachers to do. So the teachers who would be responsible for that component, for those students and families who would like to remain virtual, all of that will be handled by the Virginia Departments of Education Virtual Virginia program.
So there's a potential possibility of even less students in the school if they chose to go virtual.
They might, and I'm sorry, just to clarify on that, they will still be students of Surrey County Public Schools. We will still be responsible for those students. So they will not be counted. Well, they will be counted as a student for Surrey County Public Schools because it will still take your standards of learning. We'll still provide them with textbooks. We will still provide them with Chromebooks, iPads, whatever Virtual Virginia requires. It's just their teacher of record will be through Virtual Virginia.
And Dr. Sims, I don't mean to cut in here, but all of those requirements have been mandated by the Commonwealth of Virginia through this year's General Assembly session, if I'm not mistaken. I followed that a little bit, but it is my understanding that this Virtual Virginia option is a mandate. It's not an option that it has to
And
happen.
I hope that I heard you correctly. It is yet another mandate and another unfunded mandate from the Department of Education is that all school divisions in Virginia must offer a virtual option for next year. And we are exploring Virtual Virginia as that possibility in Surrey County.
Correct. And Dr. Sims, if again, hasn't there been a meeting already established by yourself as school administration, the school board, and the board of supervisors to discuss this previously? And I believe that was previous to me joining the board as well.
And I'm not certain that I heard the exact question, but I will say, as we are exploring and gathering data at this point, we are planning on having a town hall meeting on May the 4th, where our families can give us additional input beyond just letting us know which students will be in our buildings as opposed to being supported by Surrey County Public Schools virtually.
Understood. Thank you, Dr. Sims.
Ms. Carr, I think you wanted to know what could be done in reference to the current budget that we're looking at passing. Did you have a question on that?
Yeah, I'm just, again, wondering, Dr. Sims, can two members of the board maybe come up and meet with you all, and maybe have additional eyes put on this, your budget, and see if it can be scrubbed any better, or, I'm sorry, not any better, any more than what you all are proposing?
Well, certainly in the spirit of transparency, if Board of Supervisors members would like to meet with us as a group, I would recommend that we also have school board members available for this meeting. And I say that because the budget is not just the superintendent's budget, it is actually the school board's budget. So any concerns, any conversations should include both myself as well as school board members.
I guess I would like to talk with our board members about that and get back with you, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sims.
You're welcome. And I'm here if you have any additional questions for me.
Mr. Callum, I do appreciate all these questions because it involves the overall budget. Would that, from the answers that she gave you, would that be sufficient for us to, again, because looking at the numbers of the budget, we can always come down, but we can't go back up. Would that, what she told you, would that give you any level of comfort as to looking at the rate that we're looking at possibly approving at this time? Instead of the 6 or the 5 cents, I guess is what I'm asking. Because and just for discussion purposes, I don't see how saying 5 cent or 6 cent. Well, I don't know your position on any cent really. How you gonna look at the budget? But I think we need to give some kind of guidance and direction between from the board to Ms. Little if we want to change it, because she gave the recommendation of a 5 cent. And the board can certainly say, well, we want you to do 6 cent. And then again, if we need to come back to 5 cent, we can do that. Or whatever, because we are not approving a budget now.
I understand.
We can advertise so that we can get to the position where we will feel comfortable approving a budget.
Do we all have to vote yes to put it in the paper?
No, Ms. Rollins, we're just trying to get a consensus here, working together. Ms. Rollins can propose whatever the county administrative budget she wants. She's working with us by putting it off this week to give us a chance to talk. So, no, she does not have. We don't have to vote on it. It's not a vote. It's more or less a consensus.
If I say no, I mean, we can still put it in the paper.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let's just leave it at that.
Okay. Are there any other driving concerns from the board members at this time that we would like to discuss on the budget? This is our workshop. Speak.
Mr. Chairman, when we're voting on this particular budget, I know there was one position in the budget that I felt like we did not need, and maybe I know Ms. Rollins, she put it in the budget, so I guess she feels that we do need it, and that was that account. Ms. Rollins, what was it?
Accounting supervisor?
Yes.
Is that what you're speaking of?
Yes. I don't know what the accounting supervisor would entail and what the job description would be. But now, if we can vote on a budget and you have it there, but then we still don't agree with what that position's functions would be, can we just, not have you to place someone in that, fill that position? But when we vote on the budget, that's when the budget is set. Am I correct? And so there's, you would be moving forward with whatever we have, that's in the budget. Positions, all the positions, and then too, I know you don't have to fill them just because they're in the budget, so. You have any job description for that position already, so that, I would be interested in knowing what that position is going to be, the functions of it.
Yes, I can entertain that question, Mrs. Little. Yes, so in the proposed budget, there is a position, accounting supervisor. Right now, if you can understand the structure of the county's finance department, that has been this way for a number of years. We do have Ms. Kara Swindell, who has done excellent and is excellent in serving as the county's interim finance director. We have one other individual who serves in the finance department as the accounts payable technician. What we do rely on Ms. Swindell is we rely on her expertise as interim finance director to also play a role in doing several other finance functions in the county, and that includes risk management, that includes oversight as much as she can. We are very bare bones in terms of finance, and then one of the things that we need to do is to get our finance house in order. As you all understand, we had introduced to the Board of Supervisors a need to really improve our financial accounting software system. We need to be able to have a team in place to have more insight over such functions as risk management, more oversight over our payroll. So there is a need to have that supervisory or mid-level management position in the county to make sure that we have adequate finance activities. Grants management is also a piece that we're missing, in addition to procurement. That is a big piece. Right now, we have our, at one point, the deputy county administrator serving as procurement officer, and now sometimes we have our interim finance director serving as procurement. So we really need to bring some closure to making sure that we do have a finance department like we have in our other jurisdictions, to make sure that we're providing all of these functions to the over 14 departments in the county, to make sure they're receiving the adequate services that they need.
I appreciate that. Ms. Swindell, I mean, we do have the position of finance director also, so I just, was my thinking that the finance director would take care of all of those situations.
Two separate, yeah, that's two separate responsibilities, but good question.
Ms. Rollins, I'm trying to find it, and I can't put my hand on it. Do you have, you gave us a handout in the last budget presentation of the tax rate of our neighboring jurisdictions? Because we're looking at, instead of, and I think all the board members, we are under the, we're not all, I can only speak for myself. I think I'm in favor of the 5 cent without a doubt. That will raise us to 76 cent, and now we're looking at possibly 77 cent. How will we be compared to our neighboring jurisdictions as far as tax rates? And the reason why I ask that is because we want to make sure we have equal amenities within our county, just as our neighboring counties, because we want to attract people to the county. We don't want to be lacking in areas where we can provide a particular service. So I would like to know right offhand, so for the board information, I can't find it in my records, what is the neighboring jurisdiction's tax rate, and what would it look like as far as Surrey is being compared to other jurisdictions?
Yes, sir. Currently, Surrey is second only, is the second lowest, with Sussex being the lowest at 58 cents. The next highest jurisdiction to Surrey is Dinwiddie at 79 cents. So if the board were to raise the tax rate by 6 cents, we still would be second lowest. We'd be in the same relative position compared to our peers as we are now. And the highest, I mean, the tax rates range from a low of 58 cents in Sussex to a high of $1.20 in Colonial Heights. Dinwiddie, as I said, 79 cents, New Kent 82, Isle of Wight 85, Prince George 86, Emporia 90, and Hopewell $1.13.
So at 79 cents, well, you talk, if we do a 6 cent, you're talking about 77 cents. We will still be the second lowest in the neighboring jurisdiction. I can only speak for Mr. Elliott. With the needs of the county that we have now, and how we have not raised taxes over the courses of the year, and what we know, this is not a want, this is a need. I will let you know I'm in favor of the increase, and I will support it. That's just my position now. I know we can look at and I know we need to look at different things we can do in the future to maybe get some relief as far as land use is concerned, and talking about the dual payments and different things of that nature. But we have to, and I know we had a request for some forestry equipment that's looking at getting the tax relief that the farmers get on their equipment. These are all things that we can take up and we can discuss as a board. But I think right now we're in a position where we have to do an increase one way or the other. Because if we don't do an increase, we're really doing ourselves and the citizens of the county a terrible injustice. This is me speaking. You may feel completely different, but in order to attract people to the county, we need to do the things necessary to make the county the best that it can be. So I would be in favor of the increase, because we will still be the second lowest in the area. Let the church say amen. I'm finished.
Mr. Chairman, I agree, and I still say that we need to add I know we were looking at 5 cents, but I would like for us to add the penny for the cars for the sheriff's department. And the reason, because of their, the troubles, I mean, the problems, they're old. And they are, we don't want them out there on the road driving cars that are unsafe. And also, we talked about the radio system or something that we're gonna put in the cars.
Yes.
Well, do we want to spend money to put them in the old cars when we could go now and then put them in new cars? So I'm for the 6 cents, so I would move that, I would make a motion if that's what you want.
Well, no, we're not voting. What
Okay.
we're giving some type of consensus to
Okay.
Ms. Rollins as to how she would advertise the budget.
Okay.
And that's up to her, and then we will vote to approve the budget once they come back to us.
But she does need to know from us if
How we
whether it
feel.
be 5 or
How we
6
feel,
cents.
yeah.
Yes.
And that's the purpose of the workshop, so we can come to some kind of cohesiveness as to where we're going to go. Again, and I'll just put this out there as a caveat, if we advertise, this is stuck in my mind, so I'm giving it to you. If we advertise at 5 cents, we cannot go up.
Right.
But at 6 cents, if we can find out that we can get everything done that we need with the American Relief Fund or what other funds we have, then it's still possible that we could do 5 cents. And then I'm sure that they could make the adjustment for our citizens. But we need, again, when I say we need, I'm talking from a personal standpoint. We need this increase so we can do what we need to do as a county. And again, when I leave here, I'm looking for my phone to ring. I'm looking for people that say that, you're raising my taxes and this and that. But as a board member, I think it's incumbent upon me to do what I think is best for the overall county, and I do take my constituents' thoughts and concern. But the final thing that's resting upon me right now, when I heard the sheriff's presentation, I would not feel well at all as a board member if one of those sheriff deputies got in a serious accident, could possibly, and I was a police officer, and I know the high-speed chases you can get in and things of that nature. You need the best possible equipment that you can have, and I don't want that to be on the board that we didn't provide when we had a chance to do so. So, Ms. Rollins, as far as I'm concerned, as far as Ms. Little's concerned, we are willing to support 6 cents. We don't put our necks out there, Ms. Little.
And Mr. Howell puts his neck out there too at a 6 cent, because I believe that it's of what I've heard, being the newest person to the board, but understanding this, we have to have this. I look at it from this perspective. We cannot be a 10-pound organization running at a 2 pounds worth of infrastructure with an 8-pound deficit. We need to be running ahead of the game in order to keep up. And we have to, this is something that we really have to do. And so I support the 6 cents, and if we could get it done with 5 cents, then hey, we've just achieved 5 cents. But I do think that it would be concerning that if we need 6 cents and advertise 5 cents, then we are going to be right back in the same predicament that we are finding ourselves in now. Secondly, when we look at the school board's budget, and looking and hearing what Dr. Sims has presented to us this evening, and hearing that the 5% raise was really the only major increase that she is asking for within her budget, I don't know, and this is just Ronald speaking, where else we can cut on the school board's budget, given the fact that they have unfunded mandates that need to be looked at. Now, I can say that as we look forward for the 2022 school year budget, maybe we need to have a deeper dialogue and discussion to look at what we can happen. But we have to face it. We are still operating in a pandemic, and we foresee that this for the foreseeable future. And so I support that. Then as we move to county administration, and me coming from a strong financial background, I do sympathize with our county administrator, Ms. Rollins, in understanding the need, because I don't think, from my internal controls and auditing background, that we finance and procurement and contracts and grants do not need to be all within one person's wheelhouse. It needs to be some separate checks and balances with that. And there needs to be some complementary things that can happen. And so I feel that we need to if we're going to get our finances in order, then we need to put the people behind us that can help us manage those finances and steward the funds that we need to operate the county. That's my 2 cents for what Ronald has to say as a board member.
Do we, and again, fellow board members, I do appreciate the dialogue that we're having tonight, and I'm sure that staff appreciates it as well, because it has given us a little more guidance into where and how we are thinking about the upcoming budget. If there are any other concerns, now is the time to express them.
Mr. Elliott, I just want to say that, I am in support of procuring the sheriff's additional vehicles 100%. It's just not their safety, but if their vehicle breaks down in a chase and collides with another passerby not involved in the chase, that's very detrimental to the county as well, and to that family also. So I do support that. I know in last year's budget, we were right at the beginning and throes of the pandemic, and the board and the staff really scrubbed real hard and postponed some or did not approve, like the 3% increase at the school. They did not approve some positions in other county offices and things like that because of the pandemic. Folks, we're still there. We did it this year without it. Maybe we should take just another glance across the board and see if we could do it again this year to reduce that 6.5% increase for this upcoming year.
Okay. How for just for discussion purposes in the workshop, tell me again, how do you foresee not doing the 5 cent? You said it's 6 or the 5 cent. What was?
I would like to get, again, maybe staff go back to their departments and, scrub to the to your fingers are raw,
Okay, I
and go to
understand
go to the school board and
see where any cuts can be made in the
absolutely. And then one other recommendation, and I strongly would like to see this be performed for next year, is start the budget process in December or January with the board, so we can start seeing where and absorbing and asking questions and have ample time to review the information that we have available, knowing that we're coming in with a pencil and eraser. We can change that number anytime but we have a starting point. We're not giving us a handout document that says, okay, here it is, and
I agree with you on that totally, and that has already been recommended to staff.
Great.
They are already on board with that, so we will be
Awesome.
starting this process a little earlier next year. We've
I
already
hope a lot earlier.
Yeah, we've
Sorry.
already done that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms.
I
Rollins.
apologize. May I have a couple of comments
You may.
that I think may be helpful to the board and to those listening in? I wanted to talk a little bit about the budget process, and I do support putting out a calendar next year that actually shows budget work sessions early on. But the process does begin in the month of December with staff having to start the budget process in December. Also, I want to say that the information that we do provide to the board, the quarterly reports that we provide that Ms. Wendell has worked on, the various updates that are provided to you all on a periodic basis, hopefully will provide you information that will assist you throughout the entire year, just not during the budget processes, so some things will not catch you off guard. If you remember the financial presentation from our financial advisors, that was a part of the budget planning process in which you all were made aware that it would require a tax rate increase to be able to fund the debt service that was approved most recently for the radio system process. So I just don't want to get the full, I guess, blunt to be able to say that we don't do things a little bit earlier. But yes, the calendar certainly could show that. And I do welcome the Board of Supervisors to be able to say, Ms. Rollins, let's schedule a retreat or let's schedule a work session at any time during the year to be able to, again, work through these things on a collective conversation. So I do want to just put out there our budget process. Typically, we do try to put that process in our budget calendar. But in terms of just this type of engagement, that I do agree that we will make sure that on a ensuing year's calendar that we actually put those on the calendar so that the board would know that you all would like to meet in November or December to be able to discuss these matters.
Very good. Thank you.
And my other comment as pertains to the budget, I want to say this from the administrator's standpoint, and I want to say that obviously there is a support for the sheriff in terms of knowing that vehicles are needed. But I have to go on record in terms of other departments in the county who do have needs also. And I just need to be able to put it out there that we understand that we are operating administratively bare bones in a lot of our departments. We don't have a lot of non-operating expenditures in which our departments are working from. So in terms of wanting to be able to go in and make drastic cuts to our budget, the board is going to have to think about programs and services that you all no longer want to provide. Because again, you understand that we are a service organization and a lot of our cost is personnel related. We have not changed our personnel over the past several years with the exception of the positions that you all have so graciously agreed to fund this year in the upcoming budget, which I'm glad you all understand those are needed positions. But again, in terms of just one penny, it is $287,000. So what in our budget that we can look at that we're going to cut out $287,000 when the majority of our budget is associated with personnel and fringe benefits? Not to say that every I is dotted or every T is crossed, but we cannot get it by looking at line items. We have to think strategically about those big ticket items, which again have to be personnel and those services to be able to get 1 cent in the tax rate.
I do appreciate that information. It gives us some more insight on what we need to do if we want to scale back the budget. So I do appreciate that. Any other areas of discussion, board members? I would just like to know from Ms. Rollins, based upon the workshop, are you looking at proposing a 6 or 5 cent budget? Just for general purpose, so the board would know. I know it's totally up to you, it's your discretion, and then to bring it back us for approval. But what are we looking at? And again, what you made a very good point. You made a very good point, Ms. Rollins, as far as this is not just the sheriff's department. It's countywide. It's all the different offices countywide. We've been working at the bare minimum. I know that the 5 cent increase that we're talking about for the school system, it goes for the county employees, it goes for those in the district courts, the clerks of the courts, and all that. So it was mandated that we do these things, and it's impossible for us to do it without increasing the taxes. It's just impossible. And I do know even before I got on the board, our board members were saying that we're going to have to increase the taxes, and we put it off as long as we could as a county in reference to endearing to our constituents. But we're at a point right now where we can no longer put it off. You're not gonna show your hand, Ms. Rollins?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed your question, Chairman Elliott. I apologize.
My question was, based upon the workshop and the discussion tonight and future discussions that we're gonna hold, could you let us know, what you're going to advertise as the county budget increase? It's gonna be 5 or 6 cents. You already told us 5. We're gonna go up a cent, or we're gonna stay at 5?
Based on the conversation that I'm hearing this evening and desiring the feedback from the board on the direction to advertise the budget, it sounds like it's the consensus of the majority to do the 6 cents. And if that is the case, then I will advertise at the 6 cent. And the additional roughly $287,000, we will place it in CIP. But I do want to say that, of course, we have a little time to make a determination as to the, how that will be allocated, understanding that the board is in support of the vehicles for the sheriff's department.
Yes, and I appreciate that, and based upon the discussion as well, we do want to, as a board, just for preparation for the budget, we do want to provide the relief for the elderly and to keep the annual tax
Annual
payment.
tax, yeah.
Just a caveat to what the rate increase.
And from what I understand, that will have to be a ordinance change that the board will have to consider for that.
Yes,
Okay.
we can take it up at the next scheduled meeting, right? Ms. Powell?
I don't know if there's enough time for that. It does have to be advertised.
And we have to do a public hearing and all that on that.
A public hearing for what?
The tax relief for the elderly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, Mr. Judkins, did you say that it would have to be if we increase the amount, or would it have to be if we change it to $1,000?
I think you're gonna have to do something
Either way.
regardless to change it, but what I was talking about was if you're gonna change the structure as far as the levels of income and net assets, that's typically been done leading up to a new year. As far as changing the amount that's been given, that's why I deferred to the county's legal advice to see what could be done if there's a desire to increase that from 750 to 1,000.
I think that's what we were talking about, from 750 to 1,000.
Right.
Do we have to do a ordinance on that?
Yes, any changes to the ordinance will have to be advertised in the paper and a public hearing will have to be set on that. But it sounds like we're just doing the maximum reduction, not the tax rate that you're talking about.
Correct. Correct. The maximum reduction, yeah, from 750 to 1,000. We can make that happen. Okay. Sounds good.
If there's any other changes that I was referring to as far as the net assets or the income
Right.
level, that it would not be advisable from our standpoint in our office to change it this time, because those applications have been available since January and are due May 3rd.
So, again, and I appreciate that. Again, if we start this process earlier next year, we can have all that stuff in place, and by the time we get to budget, we can go ahead and have everything ready to
If
go.
the board has a desire to make those changes, we brought them, our office brought them before the board in October or November timeframe the last time.
Yes, sir. All right. Any other discussion, board members? Anything think we need to discuss tonight as far as budget workshop?
Mr. Chairman, we talked about this morning, Mr. Jenkins actually has a article in this Wednesday's paper that does advertise anyone who believes they are eligible for the elderly tax exemption to be able to contact his office. And one of the things that we can do to help out our elderly citizens is to just try to find different ways to make that information more prevalent, so citizens who would like to take advantage of that know how to do it and know who to contact.
And currently, it's in our brochure that we send out with the personal property forms, and the treasurer also has it on the real estate tax bill. And we run an ad in the paper. Anybody that calls, we always put their name aside to mail them an
Thank you, sir. Okay, board members, if there are no other business or to discuss, well, not business, if there are no other discussion on our workshop, we will conclude and commence at this time. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.